Hello, hello, hello. This is Warren Redlick. Hello, hello, hello. It looks like Tesla has reported their quarterly deliveries and production numbers, and I've got these on the screen for you right here. And the key number that you see is the 422,000 deliveries is the one that most people are going to focus on. Wall Street analysts are going to focus on. That's the one down here, 422,875. That is in the ballpark of Wall Street estimates. It's below what I thought was going to happen. I'm going to explain to you why I thought that number was going to be higher. And obviously, I was wrong. I think the thing that stood out to me the most here was deliveries of Model S and X were pretty dreadful. They only delivered half of the models S and X that they produced. Thank you, Mark Plot, for moderating. Mark Plot, if you there's a live chat on the video, please check out the live chat. And it's 12:18 Eastern in the Eastern time in the United States. I expect to go live with a second live stream about an unrelated topic at 2 p.m. So about 100 minutes from now, I'll be talking about whether artificial general intelligence will destroy humanity. But you see the jump that Model 3 and Model Y produced 421,000 and delivered 412,000, so about 9,000 off, but 9,000 on 421,000 produced. Where Model S and X, it was 9,000 undelivered based on 19,000 produced. So that's they're definitely having trouble getting people to take Model S and X, and I think the analysts that I've seen talking about it, the Troy Teslikes of the world, have gotten that right. Troy Teslike actually overestimated this number, which is surprising. He's within his usual 3%, much better than that. I was way off. I'm going to explain why I was way off. Before I dive into that, I'm going to come back to questions in the chat later. But sorry, if you're just joining us, this is the big news that Tesla announced deliveries of production of 440,000 and deliveries of 422,000. We're going to get into what happened, how this compares to previous quarters, what this means going forward in a minute. I just want to dive into that. It says we continue to transition toward a more even regional mix of vehicle builds, including Model S and X in transit to Europe, Middle East and Asia, and APAC. Europe, Middle East, and Africa. I don't know what EMEA stands for. APAC is, I think, Asia Pacific. So, all right. So we're going to come back to this number, but again, Tesla delivers 422,000, produced 440,000. I'm going to get into the substance of that, but really quick, if you are a supporter of me on the Locals platform, on Patreon, or as a YouTube channel member, or also as a Twitter subscriber, you can ask questions in advance of my live streams, and you get early access to some of my YouTube videos. AK420 asks, is the public sleeping on the hyperbole case for Tesla? Yes, the public has been sleeping on the hyperbole case for Tesla for a long time. I don't think the short-term hyperbole is working, but long-term, I still see everything going great, and the public just doesn't see it. Do I think Dojo business can be as large as Amazon Web Services? I think it will be bigger. I think Dojo will be bigger. I think what we're seeing right now is this huge burst in activity in artificial intelligence, focused right now on large language models, but there's a lot of different things going on in AI. And I think AI is reaching a certain point where it massively increases productivity, creates major benefits for society, makes programmers more effective. There's all kinds of advantages to AI. So I think the offering of AI training services, which it looks like Dojo will be really good at, that's going to be really important. And Ram says, why is Elon asking for government to regulate AI? I'm going to defer that question. I'm going to be talking about artificial general intelligence and whether it's going to kill us all, which is why Elon wants to regulate AI. I'm going to talk about that in the next live stream, which starts in about 100 minutes. On the Daily Live, there's a link in the chat. There's a link in the description below. There's a question from Jim Whitehead, who is one of the other regular moderators of our live chat. Jim asked a recent Solving the Money Problem video, and Jim is a YouTube channel member, and he supports me on the YouTube channel. So again, if you support me on the Locals platform, you support me as a YouTube channel member, Patreon, Twitter subscriber, you can ask questions early, and I'll address them early in my live streams. Recent Solving the Money Problem video that Stephen Mark Ryan guesses that Elon will likely continue his price cuts as Tesla's costs come down, dropping prices due to efficiencies, how Henry Ford 100 years ago destroyed most of his competitors. Are further Tesla price cuts likely to happen for the 3 and Y, and when might it bankrupt the doddering gas engine giants? I think I generally agree with Stephen on almost everything. I do think that Tesla is likely to reduce prices. I think this Partly depends on the economy, on the global economy. If the global economy is struggling, as it has been for a while, as the global economy struggles, demand for vehicles is low. If there's a resurgence in the global economy, then demand for vehicles will rise. I'm not very optimistic about a surge in global demand in the economy. So I think what's likely to happen is Tesla will continue producing in high volume. Tesla's costs are significantly lower than their competitors. They'll be able to lower prices as they need to. And don't forget that there's gross margin and there's operating margin. The Tesla's operating efficiency is really high. So even if their gross margin gets closer to zero, because operating margin is so efficient, it doesn't mean they become unprofitable. So it means they may reduce profits. That may happen in the short term. And then the point is to get as many vehicles out there as possible, because when FSD crosses the threshold and robotaxi becomes viable, the step change in revenue from that is just absolutely huge. And the more vehicles you have, the better. Jay Hyun Park says my eyeglasses look better. These are like my previous eyeglasses. My current eyeglasses, I dropped them, scratched the lenses, and credit to Walmart. Walmart is replacing the lenses for free, but I don't have them right now. So I don't know. The black frame glasses is something that I've heard was popular. I've been wearing them. I'm kind of used to them now. So I don't know if unboxing is going to be applied to the other models, but we'll see about that. So anyway, let me dive back in. This is a spreadsheet that I put together that goes through the last 5 quarters, including the quarter we just had. The vehicles that Tesla produced, the deliveries that they had, and the number of vehicles that were net undelivered. And in other words, they actually over-delivered in this quarter, 4,600, but they under-delivered the next 4 quarters. And the number I come up with is that over the last 4 quarters, Tesla has accumulated 78,000 undelivered vehicles in total. So this is an issue. Now, where does that rank in terms of days of inventory? You know, is this the inventory? Is there some other inventory out there? There's probably some positive inventory at the end of Q1. So you're in the ballpark of 80,000 undelivered vehicles. I think Troy Tesla is around 90,000 undelivered vehicles. Yes, Q1 is usually the lowest volume quarter, but Tesla is not usual. So I don't think we should get obsessed with. It is typical that you see that, but then I just wanted to show you here so you can see the growth that Tesla's production in Q1 of 2023 was 44% higher than its production in Q1 of 2022. Not very much growth, Q1 2023 versus Q4 2022. Barely any growth at all. That's what surprised me. We know Giga Berlin is growing. We know Giga Texas is growing production. It appears that Giga Shanghai cut back production for some reason. Was it because of a lack of demand in China? That's Troy's position. You know, Elon has said Tesla's going to produce as many vehicles as they can. Was it that they were doing too much overtime? I'm not sure what's going on, but it appears, my best guess is that Giga Shanghai did not reduced production compared to Q4 of 2022, and I find that surprising. So Joseph Wolfram says, adding all delivered doesn't make sense. Those were delivered in the following quarter, not being stockpiled. I'm not saying that they were being stockpiled. What I'm saying is, in Q2 of 2022, they under-delivered by 4,000 vehicles. In Q3 of 2022, if these 4,000 vehicles were delivered in Q3, well, what happened here? Then you know, you got to count that in. That counts in these deliveries, and you're undelivered by 22,000. I don't think this is wrong. I think, you know, this is the total amount that were produced over the 4 quarters versus the total amount that were delivered. This is the total amount that was produced and not delivered. I think my math is right on this. I'm open to being wrong. I don't think I'm wrong on this one. So, yeah, S and X are way down. Yes, let's go back to this is the, for those who were just joined us, let's see, we got 252 viewers. Tesla just reported their production and deliveries for Q1 of 2023. The production number is barely up from Q4, like insignificant increase, which is again disturbing because Giga Berlin increased production significantly. Giga Texas increased production significantly. It appears that Giga Shanghai pulled back. That's the report I'm hearing, that Giga Shanghai pulled back. Elon had said they're going to produce as many vehicles as they can. It looks like Shanghai did not produce as many vehicles as they can. That's my take on it. I don't know what else is going on there. Deliveries, 422,000. is an increase from, so this is a spreadsheet I created based on those numbers. So you can see that Q1 2023, you have some growth, 17,000 on 400,000. What's that work out to? Let me just, I'm doing math on a spreadsheet you can't see. C6 minus C5 over C5. That's a 4% increase, 4.3% increase, quarter on quarter. You can see the big jump. Now, Q2 was an off quarter because of COVID lockdowns in Shanghai. You can see big jumps from Q2 to Q3. You see big jumps from Q3 to Q4, and then Q4 to Q1, not a lot of growth. Now, is Shanghai going to ramp back up? What's going to happen in Q2 2023? What's going to happen for the rest of the year? My sense is that, some analysts think that Shanghai's not going to ramp. They're not going to continue to grow. They're going to pull back from where they were. They were producing, on pace for 1 million a year or more. Maybe Shanghai's not going to produce as much. Maybe Shanghai's holding back. This doesn't make sense to me. This doesn't fit with what Elon said. Elon said they're going to produce as much as they can. And the theory being that they want to get as many vehicles out there as possible so that when FSD crosses the threshold, there's more vehicles that increase value, an increase in value. I don't know what to do with that. I don't know where we go with that. That's what I think is going to happen, but it's not what's happening. So let's see what we got in the chat. And before I go back into the chat, I just want to say we are expecting Starship to launch at some point, maybe in April. There have been some updates. I often talk about SpaceX, often talk about Boring Company. So some quick news. Boring Company is expanding in Las Vegas. They've announced a larger project. I don't think there's any particular Neuralink news. There's some indication that maybe the FDA is slowing down Neuralink's human trials. SpaceX just had a launch this morning from Vandenberg, California. That appears to have been successful. Got a Falcon Heavy launch coming up on April 18th. Starship, the booster is on the pad, on the launch tower. The Starship, the second stage has apparently been rolled out to the pad. I don't think it's been stacked yet. They are waiting for FAA approval. We don't have FAA approval yet. Once it's approved, once they're ready to go, then I think we're going to see SpaceX launch Starship. There was a question from Elon. There was an article that said it was days away from launch. Elon said it's more than days, but hopefully not many weeks. So, is it going to be in late April? There was some forecast that was going to be April 20th. It doesn't look like April 20th is going to happen. Will it be late April? Will it be early May? Who knows? I'm traveling to Japan I'm traveling mid-May to early June for various things, including a trip to Japan. So selfishly, I'm hoping it happens before I go on my trips. But I think 420, Mark Plot, I don't think 420 is going to happen. So yeah, let's get to this. I just think I think the big thing that stood out to me here, for those who are coming late, Model S and Model X, look at the gap between production and deliveries. That nearly half of the vehicles produced were not delivered. Now, they did start shipping to China, so maybe they're en route. But, it seems like demand for S and X, no matter how much they lower prices on S and X in the United States, demand is just down. And this is frustrating. Jupiter James asks, could this be due to IRA incentives, pulling back investments in China and Berlin in favor of more investment in the U.S.? Just wondering. Well, you don't need to invest more in China to produce more vehicles in China. The investment's already there in China. So Hal says it's all about being happy, feeling good. Hope you are mentally great. Today is as important as tomorrow. Thanks, Warman. Be happy. I'm very happy. I went for a nice walk on the beach this morning. Made myself a nice veggie smoothie. I threw a banana in there, some zucchini, whatever. I'm eating healthy. I'm exercising. I've been going out dancing, so I'm happy. And I'm not poor now. I think there's a question here. What is this going to do to the stock price? I don't think this is going to jump. I don't think we should expect a big jump in the stock price on Monday. This is not, to me, this is not like a spectacular result. Like, Wall Street is always looking for you to, if Tesla beats estimates, the stock doesn't go up. If Tesla underperforms, then the stock tends to go down a bit. Deliveries went up. I think Wall Street estimates were around 420, so it's roughly in line with Wall Street predictions. But there's just this underperforming, and I just think there's this question. Is there going to be a moment where this 78,000 unwinds? You can see in Q1 deliveries exceeded production. What happens is when you get a backlog of undelivered vehicles, at some point there's a swing the other way. And I'm not doing athletic greens. This is not Stephen Mark Ryan's channel. So many people advertising athletic greens. Sorry, I do my supplements. I do my diet. I eat fine. So, I just sort of wonder about this. Usually in Tesla's history, you saw swings back and forth on undelivered, that sometimes deliveries exceeded production. If there was ever going to be a quarter when deliveries would exceed production, this would be the quarter. I mean, Q2, there was a reason for it because you had COVID going on. But Q1, production didn't increase much. So what happens is as production increases, it's harder and harder to deliver high volumes at the end of the quarter so you can have ongoing undelivered vehicles for a while. But we didn't have an increase in production. It should have been easier to increase deliveries more than production. And they did increase deliveries relative to previous deliveries and more than production increased, but they didn't exceed what was going on. So there's just a pile of cars there. Yehuvi says AG1 can't be good. I don't know. There's athletic greens and then there's AGI. I don't know what we're referring to now. What will keep these? What will be keeping Audi and BMW alive? So this is the thing that gets me. When you see this underperformance of S and X, what gets me? I drive a Model X Plaid. It is a spectacular vehicle. I'm confident that the Model S Plaid is a spectacular vehicle. I think the S Long Range and the X Long Range are spectacular vehicles. They're so price competitive with the competition now with these luxury sedans and SUVs. Like why is anybody buying a Mercedes, BMW, Evolve, these other like high-end vehicles? Why is anybody buying these gas vehicles when you can get these amazing electric vehicles? It's just striking to me. I don't know what Royal Match is, Dean. If you adjust for S and X low deliveries, would have been a solid print. Yeah, I think what's likely to have happened here is that Model S and X are in transit to China and other destinations, but they didn't. I don't think they increased production of Model S and X compared to the previous quarter. Like it's just the demand isn't there for Model S and X like it should be. Xander Sky says, since when does everyone expect Q1 to be better than Q4? Unwind will happen when interest rates go down. Okay, I think that's a pretty good theory, Xander, is that if interest rates go down, but I just see this ongoing buildup of undelivered vehicles, and I think at some point that has to unwind. What is my 5-year price target, Dean asks. 5 years would now be 2028 or the end of 2027. And the current stock price, well, the market cap now is, let's say, $600 billion. I think we're at 10x by the end of 2027. So current stock price around 200, you're looking at a stock price around 2,000 or more. Yeah, I'm not selling. No, that's just silly. So Bill Stadam says Supercharger Network just got a bunch more revenue. That's true that the more vehicles that are out there, the more revenue is for Supercharger Network. I don't see, and then the other thing we should talk about here is what does this mean for Tesla's deliveries for 2023? If they had 450 in this quarter and they went up 50 a quarter, because you can see, maybe 50,000 a quarter is a reasonable growth rate. At 450, you'd have 450, 500, 550, 600, and that would be 2.1 million vehicles. So, and at 450, if you just repeated 450 4 quarters, you'd have 1.8 million, which is what they forecast. So it seems pretty straightforward they're going to hit the 1.8 million for 2023 with any meaningful growth at all. And there's that question, are we going to continue to see growth? Well, we expect Shanghai, we expect Berlin to continue growing. We expect Texas to continue growing. Even if Shanghai shut for Chinese New Year, Mark, that's not enough to explain this shortfall in production. That's enough to explain an offset with Berlin and Texas, maybe. I don't think I'm not fretting over undelivered vehicles, tech guy. I'm saying that just my expectation. The vehicles will eventually be delivered to customers. But, Tesla is now holding on to something like 80,000 or 90,000 vehicles in inventory. Though now there's a theory that James Stevenson made a good point. If you have more vehicles on hand, at your delivery centers, people can come in and do a test drive, and it gives people a chance to experience a Tesla. So that would be nice. Vehicles are. I don't know that 80,000 vehicles are in transit. You know, are the the thing is, there's only 18,000 that were produced in Q1 that weren't delivered, but there's a whole bunch more that were produced in previous quarters that haven't been delivered yet. There's this holdover. Some of the undelivered vehicles have to come from previous quarters. Now the Q2 vehicles have probably been delivered, right? But the Q3 and Q4 vehicles may not have all been delivered yet. And you just end up with this hangover if you've got all these vehicles. I don't know if 80,000 vehicles in transport makes sense. 80,000 vehicles is 1/5 of the quarter. And it might be 90,000 vehicles. It's more than 1/5 of the quarter. That's, 3 weeks. Is it 3 weeks of vehicles in transit? That seems like a lot. Only Tesla can deliver to China. I mean, I think that Mercedes and BMW manufacture vehicles in Europe and sell them in China. I think that's true, but does Elon's call for pause in AI mean Tesla should pause their FSD program? That's a great question, Jupiter James. I am going to be doing a second live stream at 2 p.m. Eastern about 80 minutes from now. And I'm going to be talking about AGI then. That's a good question for them. That's going to be on the daily live. There's a link pinned at the top of the chat and a link and in the video description below. Will Nurse says 78,000 is about 16 days inventory for Tesla. I don't think so. I don't think that's correct. If they deliver 400,000, let's say they deliver 400,000 a quarter. A quarter is 13 weeks, right? 80,000 is 1/5 of a quarter, right? So 1/5 of 13 weeks is 3 weeks, 2.5 to 3 weeks. Okay, that's about 16 days. I think it's a little more than 16 days, but I don't think it's 78,000. I think it might be 90,000. So it's not 20 days, but it just seems like a bit much. And I'm not worried about it. I just think at some point they have to come into balance. Now, if production and delivery numbers grow rapidly, right? I mean, we still have 37, just to be clear, this is 36% year-on-year growth in deliveries. Tesla had been talking about a 50% annual growth rate. We're falling behind on production. We're falling behind on deliveries. We're not seeing 50% annual growth. Now, 2021 was a big jump over 2020, right? That was way more than 50% growth. So if you're talking about average annual growth, you compare this to 2020's year, we were still pacing an average of over 50% growth. Tech Guy says 440,000 produced in Q1 is fantastic. How is it fantastic? It's 1,000 vehicles more than Q4 of 2022. Look, I want to be positive, and I am positive. We know Berlin is growing. We know Texas is growing. Fremont was supposed to grow some, and Shanghai was supposed to continue its growth. It's obvious that Shanghai and Fremont either did not grow or actually fell back a bit. So, the news is already spinning it negatively. I mean, I think it's fair to spin this a little bit negatively. Look, this is not 50% year-on-year growth. This is 36% year-on-year growth. Have I tried the new release of FSD? It's definitely an improvement. Now drives on and off freeways. Yes, I have FSD version 11.3.3 on my Model X. I have 11.3.1 on my Model 3. I drove the Model 3 for about 2 hours. And I've driven the Model X a lot on FS. That was 11.3.1. I've driven the Model X quite a bit on 3.3, 11.3.3. I see some improvement, but there's a particular intersection that's challenging where it last second makes a right turn when it's supposed to make a left turn. It gets confused at some point. That isn't fixed. I think it's better, but it's not fixed. Ricardo says, Tech Guy, I understand that Tesla are holding 18,000 in inventory too. Am I correct? I don't know the answer to how. I don't think this can all be in transit. I don't think that's likely. I mean, I definitely think that some of the Model S's and X's are in transit, but have 80,000 vehicles or you've got 78,000 here. There's probably another 5 or 10,000 out there. So, do we have 90,000 vehicles in transit? That seems unlikely. And yes, I understand Q1 is seasonally the weakest quarter, but that doesn't explain production when you're trying to grow production fast. Will there be a big sell-off tomorrow? It's not clear. Like, let's suppose we have good macro news on Sunday. I don't know what the macroeconomic news is. I haven't been paying attention to it. If we have good macro news, that might spin things the other way. So Tech Guy says Tesla's total undelivered vehicle count is 17,900. 17,900 for Q1. But these vehicles that were undelivered in Q2, 3, and 4, that total is still undelivered. That if you add up the production and deliveries from Q2 2022 to Q1, I'm going to do this math while we're talking. I'm going to do this math. Let's see. B3 colon B6. So yeah, I come up with the same number, not surprisingly, that if you add up these numbers, I don't know why this is controversial. If you add up the production and delivery numbers from Q2 to Q1, Q2 2022 to Q1, you end up with they produced 78,000 more vehicles than they delivered over that period of 4 quarters. I don't know how you get around that. I just don't know how you get around that. I don't think it's possible to get around that. There's 78,000 vehicles that were produced that weren't delivered in the last 4 quarters. How many BYDs sold in America? Yeah, exactly. So, am I experiencing zero? So I'm not experiencing zero intervention drives, Jupiter James. I'm not experiencing zero intervention drives with not none. But I tend to intervene because the car isn't aggressive enough. I think interventions where the car does something bad are pretty rare, but there's this one intersection where it makes mistakes. Conrad Price, yes, I think the 1,000 vehicle growth in production or 1,100. It's like 1,100 vehicles, 1,107 vehicles growth from Q4 to Q1. I think that's a little bit of a surprise. I thought they were going to produce more. Todd Murray says they beat the street on both production and deliveries. I don't understand how. I just flat out don't understand why we're not expecting more production from Tesla than this. And I don't know whether I don't think this includes Tesla Semi deliveries, but Tesla Semi production and deliveries we're talking about, I think it's still less than 100 vehicles. So that's not significant. So, Tech Guy, you're caught up on this. Tech Guy is caught up on this. The unsold vehicles from Q2 2022 were delivered a long, long time ago. Okay, but production adds up to 78,000 more than deliveries. So are you saying that 78,000 vehicles from Q1 2023 were undelivered? I don't know. I don't think it matters. There's a high volume of undelivered vehicles. Yeah, no, I don't think BYD is worth talking about. Has Hertz taken delivery for their whole order yet? I don't think they've taken their whole order yet, but they are taking deliveries. The key will be how are margins holding up. Well, I think we can expect operating margins to be fine. I think we can expect, given that there have been further price reductions and those we're going to, more of those are going to apply to Q1 2023. I mean, Q1 2023, we had significant price cuts at the beginning of the quarter. So, and throughout the quarter, we had significant price cuts. I think we're going to see gross margin. Now, maybe manufacturing costs have gone down. Maybe they've rationalized some manufacturing. They reduced the use of overtime or something like that. So maybe that's going to make things a little bit better. But I think we're probably going to see a decline in gross margin and a flat operating margin. That's my rough guess. Wasn't Model 3 production shut down in Shanghai for a few weeks in Q1? I think there were some shutdowns in Shanghai. I just don't think it's enough to explain the lack of increase. It would be great if they would add Powerwall and Megapack into the quarterly release. I agree with that. I would say just release storage deployed for the quarter would be a nice thing to have. Storage deployed or storage produced and storage deployed would be nice. You don't have to break it down to Megapack and Powerwall. Just tell us storage deployed. Wasn't Tesla's production capacity at 2 million vehicles at the start of the year? Things are slow. So yeah, I think production capacity is in the ballpark of 2 million, but production capacity is sort of a fudgy number. I think the thing we can look at here is they delivered 420,000 vehicles in Q1. If we see the same growth from Q1 of 2022 that we saw from Q1 2022 to Q4 of 2022, which was, not quite a 30%, right? If this number grows by, let's say, 120,000 vehicles, then in Q4 of 2023, Tesla delivers over, 540,000. And you're way over the 1 million they projected. You're approaching the 2 million that Elon said was possible. And maybe the numbers get better. I think a lot of this is driven by the economy, how much demand is out there. I don't know. I'm struggling with this one. I'm struggling to explain what's going on. Guess I shouldn't have branded my face with the Tesla iron. That's funny. Yeah, I think there may be an economic slowdown and that's affecting things. I guess. I'd like to say I understand what's happening. I don't. Does delivery number include fleet sales? I think so. Yeah. So Dean Truitt says these numbers are bad. Other people are saying that they beat Wall Street estimates. Let's see what we're seeing on. Let's see what we're seeing on the news. Reuters says Tesla delivers. Here's the beauty. Reuters says Tesla misses delivery estimates as price cuts fail to lure buyers. Electric says Tesla confirms new record deliveries beats expectations. I got to put this up on the screen. This is hilarious. I'm going to put this up for you guys. I think this is hilarious. Let me take this off for a second. This is the media for you, folks. Electric is usually not very positive about Tesla, but Reuters says Tesla misses delivery estimates. Electric says Tesla confirms new record deliveries beats expectations. I don't know. You know, the media will say whatever they want to say. You can get whatever you want out of that. TDYDYHTUTF says, but history shows Q1 isn't the best quarter. What do you think Q2 deliveries will be? Let's bring that back up here. So what's likely to happen in Q2? Well, hopefully we don't have another COVID shutdown or a shutdown in China that really massively wrecks production and deliveries. I think if we see what happened from Q1 to Q3, you know, maybe we see a 50,000 vehicle increase. But this is really driven by the economy, I guess. I mean, is Tesla ramping production? We know they're continuing to ramp in Berlin. We know they're continuing to ramp in Texas. Are they going to continue holding back Shanghai? Troy Teslike seems to think they're going to continue holding back Shanghai. Why? Should Tesla delay the Cybertruck release to when the economy is doing better? Otherwise, it could be like production hell. No, Axe, no. Tesla needs to go forward with Cybertruck production as quickly as possible. Cybertruck is selling into a different market segment. There's a lot of pent-up demand for Cybertruck in the pickup community and the Tesla fans who want to have a Cybertruck. So I don't think they have any trouble selling. The initial production of Cybertruck is going to be low volume. So I don't think that's going to be an issue. Dat Boy Willis says OPEC cut production. Yeah, that's going to be an interesting impact. OPEC cutting production should probably at least hold up gas prices, if not raise them. And that's going to make EVs more attractive. Conrad Price says, I don't think sexy, that's the S Model 3, Model X, and Model Y, will sell more than 4 million annually ever. Sexy growth will never be above 50%. Growth will rely on Model 2 now. It's not Model 2. Don't call it Model 2. The next generation vehicle platform should be much bigger. Some people are saying Tesla's sandbagging. This is not sandbagging. This is actual numbers. Maybe they're sandbagging when they say 1.8 million. I mean, I think the positive side of this is the 1.8 million looks likely, right? You don't need a lot of growth. If you have 450,000 average a quarter, you get your 1.8 million. So you don't need a lot of growth from here to get to 1.8 million. The question is, are we going to get to 2 million? And you need a significant amount of growth from here to get to 2 million. Because if you do 420,000 this quarter, let's say 450,000 next quarter, and then 550 and 600, that gets you there. But are we going to get to 600? That's starting to look like, my optimism for the short term, as in 2023, is not that great. Moon asks about the valuation of the supercharger network. I think the supercharger network is not as valuable as people want to believe. I initially believed it was a big deal. I think supercharger revenue is going to be around $1 billion a year, let's say in 2023, which is about 1% of Tesla's overall revenue or less. Probably less. I think Tesla's overall revenue in 2023 is going to be closer to 120 billion. That's an optimistic forecast. It was 82 billion in 2022. So if you have 50% growth in revenue with energy growing faster than vehicles, I think that's possible. Then you'd be looking at 120 billion in revenue. Maybe we're looking at 110 billion in revenue. So $1 billion in revenue from supercharger just doesn't add up to that much. Fred Guild says, you said 450K this quarter. When are you going to start being less wrong? You're correct, Fred. I was wrong. I thought that I think at some point this has to flip and we have to see delivery numbers exceed production. And I was correct. I mean, I think they underperformed on production compared to what I expected. I expected 450,000 on production. I got that wrong. And I expected deliveries to, I think at some point deliveries will exceed production. And I thought this was the quarter for it to happen because production didn't grow that much. So it's not like the increasing scale of the business makes it harder to deliver the vehicles. The production didn't scale. So it shouldn't have been that hard to deliver more vehicles. So that's just an interesting question. But yeah, Fred, you got me. I was wrong. Do I believe Tesla will build Giga Mexico faster than Shanghai? No. I don't think things move faster in Mexico than they move in China. I think it'll be close. I think they're going to try to build it faster, but I don't think that's that important. I don't think it's as important that they build Giga Mexico in 9 months versus 11 months. What's important is they do it well. And what's really more important is that they're going to build other factories to build the Generation 3 platform vehicle and the next generation platform vehicle, not just Mexico. How will EV policy impact Q2 affecting Model 3? There's going to be a little bit less demand in the US for standard range Model 3. I don't think it's a big deal. EVs have demand headwinds this year with general worldwide recession, skyrocketing car financing costs, significantly lower gas prices. Even the federal tax credit changes are likely confusing many. Thank you, Jeff. Yeah, I mean, I think those are all issues. Jupiter James says the biggest risk to the stock this year is Elon dumping shares to fund a new AI startup. Wait, where did you come up with that? Elon's not the biggest risk to the stock is the macroeconomic situation. DM says, I'm not impressed. Tesla did cut price and deliver not so many. See, my thinking was in Q1, at the beginning of the quarter, Tesla had a fire sale and sold a whole bunch of vehicles. So I thought all of this was going to be cleared out. And it appears that it wasn't cleared out, or there's just a bigger buildup from Q1 of vehicles that were produced in Q1 that didn't get delivered. I don't know. Todd Murray says, do you think expectations heading into 3/1 Investor Day, March 1st Investor Day, might have weighed on demand? I don't know. I don't know that this is a demand problem. I'm not sure I understand the problem. Jim Whitehead says, a local car dealer in Florida near Tampa puts every used Tesla he gets out front to bring in crowds. He charges $10,000 over market, then he tries to sell you a cheaper car. Sneaky. Add Q4 2021 data to your spreadsheet. Why? I think that was a significant increase over Q4 2021, but I could be wrong. What's the problem with S and X sales? They don't offer the value compared to 3 and Y? This is a good question. Let's just go back to this for a second. Just for those who are joining us late, this is the Tesla report on vehicle production and deliveries for Q1 2023. And you notice a significant drop in deliveries of Model S and X relative to the amount produced. Is that just vehicles in transit, or is it that there's just not enough demand for Model S and X? They've certainly lowered prices of Model S and X. So what's the, I'm struggling with why S and X aren't selling better. They've lowered prices dramatically. These are like supercars, fantastic cars. They're literally hypercars. S Plaid and X Plaid are hypercars at a bargain price. Like, why does anybody buy anything else in that price point? I don't know. MJR says, or M Junior says, the inventory won't unwind in the future. The inventory was too low to begin with, likely working up to get up to 20 to 30 days. James Stevenson does a good job explaining this. Yeah, I watched James Stevenson's video this morning, actually, and James Stevenson, I don't think James thinks they need to get over 20 days, but he doesn't think it's a horrible thing if they do get over 20 days. Maybe that gives the dealers more vehicles on hand for showing people, giving people test drives. Maybe it gives people loaners when they need their car, when they more easier to get a loaner when you bring your car in for service. Jupiter James says, rumors Elon is starting a new AI company to compete with OpenAI, but who knows? Hopefully just a rumor. Tesla is an AI company that will compete with OpenAI. He doesn't need to start a new company for that. Tesla is an AI company. CM says Model S and X are way pricey. They have cut the price by 30%. They have cut prices, but they were already price competitive when they were out. This is, you're talking about the fastest car on the planet, and it sells for now $110,000, faster than cars that cost 3-5 times as much. Get Your Bone says, so what difference do these numbers really make? Do you all of a sudden not believe in the vision and sell all your stock? I still believe in the stock. I'm holding on. I haven't sold a share. Get X to 80,000, they'll sell like hotcakes. Yeah, I think there's a certain point where Model X and Model S are less profitable. I don't know that they're there yet. Oh, there we go. We need to restrain our expectation. The company is doing well. The company's doing well. I mean, we're still seeing growth, right? We're seeing growth in production. We're seeing growth in deliveries. It's just not as much growth as we were hoping for. Tesla rear-wheel drive may lose its tax credit. Yes, that's true. Greg Stan says, I'd love to upgrade our Model S to a newer vehicle, but it's been a bit much for us considering the amazing value of the Model Y. Yeah, I mean, I think that Model Y and Model 3 to some extent cannibalize Model S and Model X sales. Will the delivery numbers have a bad impact on Tesla stock on Monday? You know, I don't like making short-term stock price predictions. I think that this isn't a huge positive for Tesla stock for Monday. Did the stock get bid up in anticipation that these numbers would be better? And then since the numbers aren't better, will the stock go down? Is there going to be some macro news on Sunday that's going to make things better? That's going to offset whatever sentiment there might be about this. This isn't terrible. I mean, these numbers are close to expectations. They may be above some Wall Street estimates and below others, but they're close to expectations. So if everybody expects Tesla to beat all the time, that's not great. So, sorry. No one knows on stock predictions. Beware. Yeah, I get things wrong a lot. I got this one wrong. I thought we were going to see 450,000 deliveries. I thought we were going to see deliveries finally outpace production because of the backlog of vehicles that hadn't been delivered before getting cleared out at the beginning of the quarter. And it looks like they just had trouble selling vehicles at the end of the quarter, or they decided to, avoid the wave. Jim Whitehead says Elon recently tweeted about Bill Gates shorting Tesla again. He pointed out the contradiction of Bill carrying the claim about climate change while shorting Tesla. Yep. Rich Leap says, I think with the economy and interest rates, the whole automotive field is going to slow down. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, if this is happening to Tesla, what we have seen is other car companies are getting hit worse. There was a question earlier about when are the other car companies going to go bankrupt. I don't know, but it's not good. Average millennial investor says, Warren, have you stopped buying shares? Are you good with what you have? I have a lot of Tesla stock, and I haven't bought any recently. I bought options, I don't know, back when the stock was trading around 160 or 200 or something like that, and I'm still holding those. I'm in a personal financial cash crunch, so I may at some point have to sell stock, but not yet. There should always be inventory, maybe 2.5 to 3 weeks worth of production for transportation and delivery. As production increases, so should inventory. Yes, but production didn't increase compared to last quarter. Do I think they will cut prices once more? Yes, I think they're likely to cut prices again. Thank you, DRDSW. My covered call options got executed last Friday, so stock price down on Monday will be good for me to buy back. Okay. 2 fewer production days versus fourth quarter. That's interesting, but that's not. I don't see that being that significant, Ty Cobb. Tesla needs to release this $20,000 car. They will get, so Tesla will get to their next vehicles, right? We've got Cybertruck coming later this year. We've got the next generation vehicle platform in 2024 or 2025 produced in volume. That's coming. I don't get your hopes up on the next generation platform vehicle coming soon. It's going to take time to get that ramped. We're running out of rich early adopters, lower prices on the horizon. I do think I think we might see lower prices. Yes. All right, so we're about an hour in, or I think did I start an hour ago? How long have we been going? We've been going for 47 minutes. What do these numbers mean for the rest of 2023? Great question. Let's hit that. Craig Stan says, what do these numbers mean for the rest of 2023? 2024 seems even more grim unless Cybertruck is aggressively ramped. Q2 and Q3 will establish the demand trend. The stock will likely continue to be bumpy. Yeah, I think we're going to see a bumpy ride on the stock. The rest of 2023, I see, it's likely that Q2 2023 production will jump. Will it jump to 500,000? Maybe not, but maybe 480. Deliveries, are deliveries going to continue to lag? Are we going to see 460 deliveries in Q2? I think what it means is that for the year, we're still on pace for potentially hitting 2 million vehicles delivered and more than that produced. Because 440,000 produced. If that's going to grow, we're going to be well over 2 million produced. Al says better marketing than cutting prices now are setting a trend for consumers. I think Tesla would rather lower prices. I think the concept is let's get as many vehicles out there as possible, and then when FSD goes live, people upgrade, and that's a huge margin lever. Tesla Generation 3 vehicle, the demand is the moon. Yep. Is 1.8 million a stretch? I think 1.8 million is looking very, very likely at this point, average millennial investor. ICOP says 2 fewer production days in China, Chinese New Year shutdown, Model 3 shutdown in Shanghai, 4 short shutdown in Berlin in February. Maybe. SpaceX did deliver again this morning. That's just a quick update there. SpaceX had a successful launch this morning. They have a Falcon Heavy launch scheduled for April 18th. The boosters will not return to land. Could Chinese New Year affecting Shanghai's ability to make deliveries and help explain why the inventory grew and didn't go down? It could explain it. I'm just not sure. But when's the quarter when this number goes positive? That's what I want to know. We had 4 quarters in a row of fewer deliveries than production. When is there going to be a quarter when the deliveries exceed production? I think it has to happen at some point. What is the Cyber Vault? The best guess on Cyber Vault, so those who haven't seen it, there was an image that came out of Tesla China, that something called Cyber Vault, which many of us think is just an EV charger, like a home charger or a destination charger. George Clinton says, Cintrone says, I went from not being able to afford a Cybertruck to being able to, but now with these high interest rates, higher prices, I'm back to where I started, LOL. Raymond Chen says, bet on SpaceX Starship instead of Tesla price to vertically take off. Well, the problem with SpaceX Starship is it's hard to invest in it. Did the Giga Beer sold out? Tesla also announced Giga Beer. They were selling some fancy beer in Europe, and it was apparently sold out. It was like $80 for a small beer or something. What's my prediction for what? What's my prediction for next few Gigafactory locations? I think we're very clearly going to see we're going to see a factory in Mexico. Then you've got this question. By the way, t-shirts at elonbits.com. This is Tesla's the next Tesla t-shirt. And stainless steel water bottles are also there. The Tesla stainless steel water bottle, the Elon stainless steel water bottle. And there's other t-shirts, all at elonbits.com. Links in the chat, links in the description below. So let's go back to the factory locations. I think we're likely to see a next generation factory in Shanghai. And I think there's reports that that's already happening. I think from Wuhua. I think it's likely we're going to see a next generation vehicle factory in Texas. And there's a good chance we see a next generation vehicle factory in Europe. And then we got the one in Mexico. And then I'd like to see one in Japan, but I don't know whether that's happening or not. BTRTS says, don't understand the negativity. 441,000 in Q1 will easily be 1.595 for 2023. Well, there's 441,000 produced in 2023. That's not delivered. I'm not concerned about demand, but there's people out there who are concerned about demand. That affects the short-term share price. I think Mark Plot, I think Gigavolt is some sort of charging device. Maybe it's got extra batteries in it, so it gives you an extra burst of juice early on in the charge. Let's see. When does Tesla hit 420.69? I don't know how to predict that. I just bought a P85D for $30,000. Nice. When will we see semi deliveries? We're already seeing some semi deliveries. I think we're not going to see volume of Tesla semi until Giga Nevada is built out. I don't think they're going for volume in their current production line. Giga Montreal or Giga Indonesia. I don't think those are happening, but I don't know. So Barry Glack said numbers are a flop. What a surprise that Barry Glack said something negative about Tesla. Giga South Korea, Marty Party. I think that makes sense. Let's check out Barry Glack. See what he said. All right, you got me going. Gary Black says, here, I'll put this up. Tesla delivered 423,000 EVs ahead of Wall Street estimates of 421 and easily a new quarterly record. which is respect. One first quarter production was 440,000 days in inventory of 16, up from 13 in fourth quarter, which is respectable, giving efforts to smooth the delivery wave. It seems to me like Gary's being reasonably positive. Uh, so who got it right? Gary Black said 424,000. He got 420. Did he get 423? Is that right? Yes, 423. He's right. He made a pretty good call there. Lots of other people were more optimistic. I was at 450, so I was way off. The analyst consensus was 421. So the analysts in Wall Street, James Stevenson actually undercalled it. So I think Troy Teslike was around 4. I think Troy Teslike might have nailed it on the head. Um, was he at 427? I think he went up to 427. Yeah, he was at 427. Oh, sorry. For those who don't know, Barry Black is a joke reference to Gary Black, the Wall Streetish Tesla guy. What did you do in Japan for a year? When will you go back there for a long vacation and promote Giga Osaka? From Raymond Chen. Thank you, Raymond. I lived in Japan in 94, 95. I taught English, what's called English conversation. I was an Eikaiwa Kyoshi. I taught English conversation to small children, high school kids, adult males, adult females. Like teaching English conversation, not English language, but like how basically teaching how Americans speak. And I am going back there for several days in late May into early June, and I'm thinking about moving there in October, November, and living there for 3 months or longer. 1 second, please. Ah. Sorry. To take a real world stuff every once in a while. That was quick. Jupiter James says, I'm calling it now. Cybervault is a battery pack put in the bed of the Cybertruck to give extra juice for towing. Yeah, I'm going to say that Cybervault is a charging device that is in China because they promoted it in China, not here. D Stone says, as I said, unfortunately, you are more often wrong with your predictions. Yeah, I agree. I'm often wrong with my predictions. We can agree on that. Short-term predictions are often wrong. Long-term, I'm not so sure. Mark Potocnik asks, are we going to have a Cybertruck delivery event? I would expect we're going to have a Cybertruck delivery event, yes. I mean, I don't know for sure, but I think that's likely. So I think if Tesla's offered another FSD fire sale, perhaps 50% discount, that would spur increased demand and margin. I don't think Tesla's going to do an FSD fire sale. I don't see that happening. Even a blind squirrel finds a nut now and then. Yep, that's true. Broken clock is right twice a day. Brian Wong, thank you, Brian, for joining the chat. Brian Wong of Next Big Future says 5,000 to 8,000 short delivering SNX, delivering to new markets. I think it was 9,000 short on SNX. And yeah, maybe those are like in transport, but when do they catch up? This is the question that I have, Brian. And Brian often comes on my channel. When is the catch up? Are they ever going to catch up and have a quarter where they deliver more than they produce? Because what I'm expecting is production is going to continue to ramp for the rest of the year. So it's going to be hard for deliveries to match production. But is there ever going to be a moment where Tesla catches up, or are they just going to continue to accumulate undelivered vehicles? Not exactly that, but is the undelivered vehicles number going to continue to grow indefinitely? David Rucker says, Warren, deliveries are only 9.6% less than production. Isn't that reasonable for transportation? Maybe. I don't know. I mean, I don't see that. I don't see 9%. I see 20%, right? We have about 80,000 vehicles. when you add up Q2, to Q1, you add up these 4 quarters, you have a total production exceeds deliveries by 78,000. And there was some left over after Q1 of 2022 because they weren't at zero at the end of Q1 2022. So maybe you have 90,000 vehicles total that haven't been delivered yet. Now, maybe those vehicles were all produced in Q1 2023, but 90,000 is not 9% of 440,000, is it? It's 20% by my math. Because 4,000 would be hang on a second. Let me get my head together. 40,000 would be 10%, or 44,000 would be 10%. So if you're at 88,000, you're at 20%. There's 20% of vehicles out there that haven't, on monthly production, that haven't been delivered. Interview with Randy Kirk would be interesting. I've interviewed Randy before, and I've been on his channel. And somebody says, hope you have a great day. I'm having a great day. I always have a good day. Had a nice walk in. I had a nice breakfast. No, I'm not going to be a sumo wrestler. When do I think FSD is going to be almost perfect? I think FSD, it's hard to predict when FSD is going to cross that threshold to being better than human. I mean, I think in a lot of ways it's already better than human, but not in enough ways. I think from what I can say, what I see, version 11 isn't it yet. As long as it can't make my left turn, I don't have a Chuck Cook left turn. I have a Warren Redlick's left turn. And as long as it can't make my left turn, I think there's a problem there. As long as it's not consistently making my left turn. I think suicide lanes are still a problem. So I think maybe probably not version 12, but maybe version 13. So maybe by the end of this year, we're going to cross the threshold. It's really hard to know when you have exponential growth, what you need to get to in order to get there. So I think Cybertruck has a frunk. Yes, I think it does. Todd Murray says, thinking of heading to Florida to see a launch. Recommendation on when? April 18th is a Falcon Heavy launch. I'm not aware of any other launches coming up. I think I looked at my calendar. I have a launch calendar called Next Space Flight. It's an app. And let's see. We have, April 7th is a launch. Intelsat from Cape Canaveral. That's a booster lands on a drone ship. April 18th is a Falcon Heavy launch. April 28th is another Falcon 9 launch from Florida. And then there's more launches after that. So right now I've got April 7th, which is 5 days from now. I got April 18th, and I've got April 28th. And there is a Delta IV Heavy launch on April 20th, roughly, which is an interesting launch to watch as well. That's the United Launch Alliance launch. Marty Party says Japan needs kids, help them out. What's my prediction on Robotaxi's arrival? It doesn't look like we're going to see Robotaxi this year, so it's looking like next year. Marty Party says Japan needs kids, help them. I mean, the reason I would go to Japan is, there's a couple of reasons. One, the cost of living is lower. 2, it's a different lifestyle, sort of an adventure. And 3, I think I have a better chance of meeting a wife and having children there than I do here. Based on, a year and a half now of trying to find somebody here and not being successful, I think my odds are going to be better. I'm not giving up here yet. I would go to Japan maybe October 1st. So I've got given a little bit more time to try to meet the right person. Not sure I want to live long term in Japan. Maybe I'd want to live in Japan short term and then move here with a wife and kids. We'll see. Japan's a pretty good place though. Toyota has best 25-day inventory. Well, Japan sucks when you learn other than the media portrays. No, Japan is great. I've got a lot of friends in Japan. They love living there. And I lived in Japan. I loved living in Japan. I lost a lot of weight when I lived in Japan. It was in great shape. Carlos James says, I work in construction, would like my work truck to be a Cybertruck. I don't work in construction. I'd like to have a Cybertruck. Factory upgrade. What was this? Losing track of this. All right, let me go to the bottom here. Marry a Colombian woman. They're the best. So I have looked at, I've considered like Costa Rica or Colombia as an option, but I think Japan's great. Japan is a much safer place than Latin America. And I know Japanese culture better than I know Latin American culture. I do speak Japanese. Watashi wa nihongo ga skoshi dekimasu. Daijoubu desu. Gambarimasu. Jim Whitehead, who are those two dancing girls at the start of your recent video? So just so people know, when I make videos on YouTube, I sometimes incorporate little things early in the video. You lose most of your viewers in the first minute. Your biggest loss of viewers is in the first minute. So I like to do a couple things to, in the early in the video to grab people's attention, have some graphic moving across the screen or some clip or whatever. So I found a video of two cute girls dancing and just threw that at the beginning of the video. They're like some TikTok channel. If you watch the video, you can see TikTok on it. Have I thought about visiting Europe or China? I don't particularly want to go to Europe. I have thought about visiting China, but I think I know Japan well, and I think Japan's the right place for me to go. Brian Wong says April 10 and 11 is when NASA has planes booked for observation. I don't think there's much chance of Starship launching on April 10th or 11th. I think at best we're looking at April 20th, and that may be optimistic. Craig Stan says, wouldn't it be 5.2% undelivered vehicles over the calendar year, 78,000 over 1.5 million? That's a way you can look at it, I guess. I don't know. Brian Wong says he thinks 18 to 23 days is reasonable for days of inventory, about 25% of 90 to 92 days for a quarter. I don't know. I'm happy. It just, I could be happier. Ross Fletcher says, I don't see the negative on inventory. Fleet of robo-taxi. If a factory has emergency shutdown, there are still cars. Why doesn't Tesla make more leasing deals? Jim Whitehead says, why doesn't Tesla make more leasing deals like it did with Hertz? I tried twice to lease a Hertz Tesla in Florida, and they were all leased out. I think that's going to grow over time. I think that's just a matter of Hertz working through their inventory of gas cars to replace them. Party says people don't want to wait months for cars. It's better to have some inventory. Yeah, but I think we're at the point now where people are getting their vehicles delivered fairly quickly. So I don't know if we want to have, I don't know if it's necessarily a good thing to have lots of cars waiting. Ross Fletcher says factory upgrade time should be good for inventory. Okay. See. Al says, war man, stay home. Just, you are who you surround yourself with. Just tough love for now. You'll be richer soon. I'm not worrying about being richer. I'm worried about like making life an adventure and trying to figure out what the best way is to do it. Why are houses in Japan so cheap? I don't get it. Literally in the biggest city, it's like 25,000. Housing in Japan is cheap because the population is declining. So there's a lot of empty housing stock. Will the Tesla van rideshare fee be as cheaper than your pod car? I think that so this is going forward. For those who don't know, I have plans of building this. I have many different plans of things I'm going to do, and some of them will get done, and some of them won't. I actually think the pod car might be more viable as a project in Japan than it is here. It's more likely to be a market where people would ride in them compared to the United States. But one of my thoughts is that this pod car is an idea of a single passenger vehicle. I've been working on that. I'm making some progress on figuring out how I'm going to go forward on that. Like somebody just joined as a YouTube channel member. Thank you. Thank you, Barry Polatsky, for joining the channel. Please consider joining the channel just like Barry did. He's in the chat. Please consider subscribing. Please consider supporting me on the Locals platform on Patreon as a YouTube channel member. I'll be going live on Locals in about 40 minutes to talk about artificial general intelligence. Jim Whitehead says, Hal, the account Hal that's been tweeting, maybe a bot or translation from some other language. He's ungrammatical sometimes. Interesting. And Mark Plot just deleted one of his messages. Interesting. You have a moderation going on here. Juan Win says, I will go to Japan or to China if I get rejected. Yeah, I mean, the advantage for me going to Japan, at least in theory, is Japanese women like Western men, and there aren't many Western men in Japan. I'm 6 feet tall and 200 pounds or getting down to 195 pounds. I'm big. Women generally like bigger men. I'm bigger than the men there. Who knows? It certainly was the case when I lived in Japan before that Japanese women seemed attracted to Western men, and a lot of my male Western friends had Japanese girlfriends, plural. I only want one. Um, Real Futurist says Q1 is 2 days shorter than Q4, and Chinese New Year reduced production in Q1, and Tesla still produced more vehicles in Q1 than Q4. Yeah, but it wasn't the growth that we were looking for. We're not looking for, 3% growth. We're looking in a quarter. We're looking for quarterly growth of 10 to 20%. And this was, less than 1% growth. This was a quarter of a percent growth. Even if you take out a couple of days here and there, that's like, what is that, like 3% of the days in the quarter? You should still see, easily 10% growth quarter on quarter in production. Thank you, Craig Stan. Let's see. Yeah, just following on what some of the supporters are saying in the chat. Please like this video. Please share the video with your friends. Please subscribe to the channel if you don't already. Please subscribe. Please support me on the locals platforms. Please support me on Patreon. Please join as a YouTube channel member. Please subscribe to me on Twitter. Check out the t-shirts at elonbits.com. Gene L says, if it's $10,000 per auto as profit, then maybe $4.5 billion Q1 profit possibly. I believe that is roughly correct. I think we may see a slight dip in profit per auto because I think prices came down. But it would be I think that would be 4.2 billion profit for the quarter. I don't think that's crazy. I think we could see 4 billion profit for the quarter. I don't remember those numbers. I think that's about right, though. I do think that's about right. Was that gross margin or operating margin or net margin? Anthony Daxis says, thought you weren't concerned about short-term or quarterly growth. I'm not concerned about short-term share price changes or quarterly changes. I'm a little concerned that when there doesn't appear to be a reason for production growth in the quarter, that bothers me a little bit. One win. Wait, what was this? Mark Plot says, Warren, Japanese bird only makes nest with men with chest hair. I do have chest hair. Older generation living longer, younger generation shrinking. That's a major problem. So, I think Japan has a shortage of babies, and, I want to help out with that just a tiny bit. Any energy numbers out yet for the quarter? No. One of the things that I'm disappointed about, just for people who are, joining late recently or whatever, this is Tesla's report. They report production and deliveries, and just so people see the full thing, they indicate that we're going to get the quarterly call will be April 19th, 2023. That's right after the Falcon Heavy launch. I'm not sure why that's important. But you see they report production and deliveries of vehicles. They don't report energy storage. I would love to see them add energy storage to their quarterly, this is how many gigawatt hours of energy storage we produced and delivered. That would be a nice thing to add, because that is going to be a significant chunk of the business. David says, last 4 years, Q1 versus Q4 production, very little growth all years. Okay. I still expect quarterly growth in production in Q1, and maybe I'm wrong to do that. Ripcord says, what are the differences in what we get on the different platforms if we support you? The best platform to support me on is the Locals platform. I do additional content on the Locals platform. On all the platforms, you get early access to some of my YouTube videos. You get a discount on merch, a discount code on merch that saves you $2 a shirt, $2 an item, whatever it is. And I do some exclusive content, particularly on Locals. Speaking of Japan, do you have any thoughts on Japan remilitarizing due to its growing concern toward China, North Korea, and Russia? I don't think Japan's going to remilitarize, and I don't think it would make any sense because they don't have the young men to support having a remilitarized Japan. I just don't think that's viable for Japan. Long Nguyen. Okay. I wonder what Japan will look like in 10 years given its stagnating population. Japan is in a slow decline now in terms of population. I think that the population decline is going to accelerate over time. I don't think it'll be that obvious right now. I think it's going to be, or in 10 years, it's going to be a lot more obvious in 20 years. But we're going to start to see signs of it soon. They should report Megapack deliveries. I mean, you could say it's Megapack, you could say it's Powerwall. I think if they just reported storage produced and storage deployed, that would be good enough for me, at least as a start. Does Tesla have to report actual production? Can Tesla just add the undelivered, the current production, new number? I don't know if they have to. They just developed a pattern of doing it. Anthony Dex says still looking good for likely 2 million units production in 2023. Let's go through that. I just want to hit this point. There's production for the year and there's deliveries for the year. So I would say that deliveries of 1.8 million looks very, very likely at this point for 2023. You don't need a lot of growth from 422,000 to get, you need 450,000 average per quarter to get to 1.8 million. So you don't need a lot of growth in deliveries to get to 1.8 million delivered. For production, you need an average of 500,000 a quarter. So you need a significant amount of growth, a significant growth in production to get to 2 million produced. But I think this was a lag in growth in production, so maybe we should see a jump in production in Q2 2023. Did Zach say margins won't dip below 20% this year, will be above 20% this year? I don't see 20% margin this quarter. I think what Zach was saying is that operating margin will hold up, and that probably means net margin will hold up. Jim Whitehead, I think country line dancing has been a good place to find women, but I haven't managed to create a date out of that yet. I think I'm getting closer, but we'll see. Any ideas on how you think Japan can reemerge as a growing economic power that it was during the 80s? I don't think Japan is going to reemerge as a growing economic power. I think Japan is going to continue to shrink as an economic power due to its population issues and bureaucracy. Large-scale adoption of robo-taxis, highly unlikely. How the heck would it get around after a snowstorm with trees falling on the road like I and everyone around me had to yesterday morning? If humans can do it, then once robo-taxis are, once FSD is better than human, it will do better than human at whatever you did. That's the expectation. Okay, Juan Win, I'm gonna remember that your name, that you're gonna change the world. I'm not promising I'm not good at remembering names in general, so I'm not promising I'm gonna remember your name, but I hope you change the world. And hopefully in a good way. All right. So I've been going for an hour and 15 minutes. I think this is a good time to wrap up. I'm going to be live again in 30 minutes at the Daily Lie, warrenredlick.locals.com, link in the top of the chat. I don't know where the chat is for you. Link in the top of the chat. And link in the video description below. Please check out the t-shirts at elonbits.com. Long-term, Tesla's going to do this. Long-term, short-term, who knows? Long-term, we're going to see ups and downs. You can see the ups and downs. You can see the dip there. Check out the t-shirts and the stainless steel water bottles at elonbits.com. Please check out my other videos. Support me on the Locals platform on Patreon as a YouTube channel member or as a Twitter subscriber. Please like this video, share.